Welcome to our channel, all friends. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe my channel and press the bell icon to stay update for new videos. Thanks. Let's start new video. I had just come out of the shower and was standing in front of the mirror, admiring myself. My milky complexion looked even brighter after the bath. My golden hair cascaded down to my waist, and my beauty was evident in the mirror. Feminine charm was overflowing in me. It didn't seem like I was only 17 years old. Youth had descended upon me with such force that I looked much older than my age. I quickly glanced at my full figure and swiftly draped a dupatta over my body. This ever-increasing feminine beauty was causing me distress. Sometimes I would even be afraid of myself, fearing that my own gaze might cast an evil eye on me. It wasn't that I considered myself exceptionally beautiful. The truth was, I had been like a doll since childhood. Even as a child, everyone used to call me Gudiya, doll, and my family still calls me Gudiya today. As I adorned myself and stepped out of the room, my mother looked at me intently and said, "Gudiya, what kind of clothes do you wear? Wear something nice and a little tight. You are so beautiful, I want you to look even better so that good proposals start coming for you. I don't want to marry you into a poor family. Here, seeing your beauty, all the relatives have lined up, but I will never marry you into one of those poor families." Hearing my mother's words, I felt ashamed. She was my mother, but she always wanted me to wear tight clothes and display my beauty to the world. My mother even stitched all my clothes very tightly, which is why I intentionally used to wear my mother's clothes instead of my own. Even now, I was wearing my mother's outfit, which is why she was upset. I sat in front of my mother and said, "Mother, I don't like all this. It feels like everyone is casting a dirty gaze on me." Hearing my words, my mother gave me a sharp look and pulled my dupatta from the front, tossing it aside. She said, "At least wear this properly. Nobody casts a dirty gaze on you. Everyone looks at your beauty. And someone who casts such a gaze will bring a proposal for you. If he is from a good and rich family, I will marry you off quickly. Now go and get the clothes from the roof, and mind you, don't tie your hair when you go to the roof. Leave them open. The new people who have shifted next door are very wealthy. They just bought this house, and their daughter was saying that they also have a house in a big society. They are going to shift there soon, and they also have a big car. Who knows? Maybe someone among them will notice you." Hearing my mother's words, I looked at her with annoyed eyes and went up to the roof without saying anything. With each passing day, my mother's desire that I marry into a rich and big family was growing. My mother adored my beauty and believed that with this beauty, I could change not only my destiny, but also hers. My mother actually wanted to escape poverty herself, and that's why she was bent on using me. Ignoring my mother's words, as I reached the roof, I adjusted my dupatta back into place. I didn't like any of this. I wanted to hide my youth from everyone, but my mother forced me. The weather was very pleasant, with cool breezes blowing. I had just showered a little while ago, so my hair was still wet, and the cool air made it completely sway. I closed my eyes in delight and turned my face toward the sky. The wind was quite strong. My dupatta had also flown away with the wind and landed on the roof, but at that moment I felt nothing. I was just feeling the cool air. Doing all this, I felt a lot of peace. The most peaceful part of my house was this roof, where I felt very happy. I stood like that for a while, then spread my arms and spun around, and when I felt it was getting late, I quickly picked up the basket and started gathering the clothes. While picking up clothes from the roof, my gaze fell on the roof of the house next door, and I was startled for a moment. There was a boy talking on the phone. I probably hadn't looked at him carefully, but he was looking at me. Even while talking on the phone, his gaze was fixed on me. It was the intensity of his gaze that made me realize I wasn't alone on the roof, but someone else was present around me. As soon as I saw that boy, I quickly changed my angle so he wouldn't see my face. But I was unaware that he had been there before I came to the roof. I just hadn't seen him. I quickly picked up the clothes and didn't look back. I was already in a lot of trouble. I had no shortage of admirers. Whenever I stepped out of the house, whistles would start blowing from the corner of the street. That's why I gathered the clothes and came back down. But I constantly felt the warmth of his gaze on my back. I didn't want any more trouble, so I ran down the stairs. Handing the basket of clothes to my mother, I headed to my room and breathed a sigh of relief as I lay down on the bed. But as soon as I closed my eyes, that boy's face came into my mind. In just one glance, his face had settled in my heart and mind. He was not only young, but also quite handsome. These were the people my mother called wealthy. They really did seem rich, but I had no problem with rich or poor. I just wanted a loving, respectful companion, but until today, I hadn't found a boy in my life who would give me love and respect. I had found every gaze directed at me to be impure. Every gaze that looked at me seemed to be influenced by my beauty. My best friend Shammai used to tell me, "You are very lucky. There is no shortage of men in your life. Whoever you marry will be completely immersed in your love." And I would always blush at her words. Many times Shammai would say to me, "I wish I were as beautiful as you. My life would also be better." And I would just look at her. Because the truth was, I was now troubled by my beauty. It had become very difficult for me to hide myself from the world's impure gazes. When Shama saw my distress, she would say, "Why do you need to hide from the world? It's good that you show people your beauty. Everyone will fall in love with you, and then you can marry whoever you want." If I were that beautiful, I would have an affair with 2 or 4 boys at a time. Hearing Shama's words, I would scold her angrily and slap her, but then I would think in my heart that I would only marry one man and love only him. I didn't need a variety of men in my life. Even now, lying on the bed, I was thinking the same thing when the room door opened and Shama entered, hopping and jumping. She was also my age, but she had a bit too much childishness in her. Perhaps because her feminine charm was not as developed as mine, she looked less mature, which is why everyone called her a child. But for me, this word child was now gone. Seeing me, she immediately said, "Oh, Gudiya, you're relaxing here? Come on, get up quickly, let's go to your roof." Hearing her words, I sat up in surprise and said, "Shama, I just came from the roof after taking down clothes. Why go to the roof again?" She glared at me and said, "You went to the roof? Did you see him?" She asked in a curious manner, and I was looking at her in surprise. Who would I see? What are you talking about? I thought Shama's mental balance was disturbed. "Oh, those new people who came to your neighborhood. They have an only son, very handsome and beautiful. All the girls in the neighborhood are smitten with him. I also saw him yesterday. Believe me, seeing him, I forgot to blink. Haven't you seen him yet? He's in the house right next to yours. You can see their house well from the roof." Shama was looking at me in surprise, and that boy automatically came to my mind. He was indeed very handsome, but at that moment, I didn't want to create trouble for myself by telling Shama this. So I shook my head in denial and said, "No, I don't know anything like that." Shama slapped her head and said, "Oh, they are very rich people. And most importantly, the boy is very handsome and young. You should have gone to the roof at the first opportunity. He would have fallen in love with you at first sight. Your destiny could have changed." Hearing Shama's words, I remembered that boy's gaze, but I shook my head in denial and said that I didn't want to go to the roof, nor was I interested in any boy. If they were so rich, what would they be doing in our poor neighborhood? If they live in the house next to ours, how are they rich? This isn't a very big neighborhood. I shook my head in denial and leaned back on the pillow, and Shama just stared at me. "Oh, Gudiya, they're only here for a few days. I found out from their maid that their bungalow is under renovation. They got this house in a hurry, so they came here. As soon as the work is done, they'll go back. You only have these many days. I say, cast your spell of beauty. Come on, let's go to the roof." She grabbed my hand and started pulling me. But I didn't give in. I didn't want to tell her that I had already seen that boy a little while ago. Otherwise, she would have asked 1,000 questions and made my life difficult. For a while, she sat there with a pout on her face, and then my mother came and said, "Go get some groceries from the market. Now that Shama is here, go with her." My mother untied some money from the corner of her dupatta and handed it to me along with a slip. I flatly refused and said, "Mother, I won't go to the market. The shopkeepers are strange. They stare at me with wide eyes." Hearing my words, my mother smiled, cupped my face in her hands and said, "My Gudiya is so beautiful that whoever sees her will go crazy. Go, my child, what will happen by hiding your face indoors? You have to do the work, right? And don't you dare go wrapped in a big shawl. Just go as you are sitting." My mother glanced at my attire and told Shama to go with me. Shama was already fond of going to the market. She quickly stood up, And then, reluctantly, I had to leave the house just as I was. As soon as we stepped out of the house, Shama elbowed me and said, "Look, he's getting into his car." At Shama's elbowing, I looked up with a start and saw a big black car parked, and that boy was opening the door to get in. His gaze fell on me and Shama, and he paused for a few moments, frozen in place. Shama whispered softly, "Look, he's looking at you." I glared at Shama, took her hand, and quickly walked past that boy. If it were up to me, I would have hidden myself completely inside my dupatta, but my dupatta was so small that I couldn't even drape it fully over myself, let alone hide my face. My mother thought that doing so would bring a good and rich person into my life, but I couldn't make my mother understand that doing so would only attract ill-intentioned men. We reached the market, and there too the shopkeepers started calling out to me with strange names. Some called me Gudiya, some bubbly, some baby, and some stared at me from head to toe. Everyone was calling out like that, making me feel ashamed of myself, while Shama didn't care about any of it. I felt everyone's gaze piercing through my being. My long, flowing hair, reaching my waist, was still open. My mother hadn't even allowed me to tie it and had sent me out like that. With great difficulty, I quickly bought my mother's groceries from a shop, and the shopkeeper, while taking the money, also held my fingers. A current ran through my body. I pulled my hand away with a tug and, without saying anything, picked up the goods and quickly took the way back. But when I reached home, I was surprised to see my mother pacing around the house in extreme happiness and impatience. As soon as she saw me, she hugged me and said, "Gudiya, you've come. I was waiting for you." I asked my mother in surprise what had happened. I had just left. Shama had gone back to her own house from outside because it was evening. My mother kissed my forehead and said, "The new people who came next door, a proposal has come from their house for you." Hearing this, the ground slipped from under my feet. How was it possible that that boy had just seen me a little while ago and sent a proposal for me? I was looking at my mother with pretty staring eyes, while my mother held my hand and made me sit on the charpoy. She said that the boy's mother had come. They are very rich and wealthy people. They have only come here for a few days. Maybe it was your destiny to change. That's why they found this house. Look, now you will marry and go to a palace, and I will go with you too. I had already told them that I couldn't live alone after sending my daughter off. I am a heart patient. Hearing my words, that woman said, "Yes, sister, you also come with us. What objection could we possibly have? Look how good-natured they are." My mother was completely smitten with them, and I was just surprised by my mother's words. My mother had started dreaming of my marriage in her heart while I was immersed in surprise. "Mother, they are so rich. Their son wouldn't have a shortage of girls. Then why would he want to marry a poor girl like me?" All sorts of doubts were rising in my heart, but my mother couldn't see anything. "My child, when it's written in destiny, anything can happen. Besides, matches are made in heaven." That's why his mother herself came to our house. I immediately told them to come again tomorrow and sweeten their mouths. See how the whole neighborhood will burn with jealousy. How crooked and strange proposals were coming for you. When they find out you got engaged to such a rich boy, your relatives will also burn to ashes. My mother was jumping with joy like a child, and I just watched her. I tried to think if such love could happen to someone at first sight that they would talk about marriage, but my heart didn't believe it. My mother happily started preparing for the next day, while I silently lay in my room wondering if the locks of my destiny had truly opened or if my mother had misunderstood something. And in this dilemma, the whole night passed. The next morning, my mother woke up and said, "Today, my daughter, get ready properly. Take out a tight dress and wear it. Keep your hair open and put on some red lipstick. It suits your face very well. I'll do all the other work myself." Saying this, my mother remained busy with chores all day, while I, at my mother's command, got ready exactly as she wished. In the afternoon, the same woman and her son arrived, and they then sweetened my mouth, symbolizing acceptance of the proposal. That woman's son, Nawaz, was looking at me with deep gazes, and I felt shy within myself. My heart was beating in a different way. Many gazes had fallen on me until today, but I had never seen anyone stare at me like this. He kept looking at me even in front of his mother and my mother. His mother put a very large gold ring on my hand and also spoke about an early marriage because they had to shift to their house and they wanted to take me with them. I didn't understand their haste, but my mother found this haste appropriate. My mother said that we should marry before people cast an evil eye, and then the wedding was finalized for 2 days later. The groom's family didn't want any dowry or anything. They just wanted to take me with them. And when my mother talked about going along, they agreed to that too. After finalizing everything, they left, and my mother, in her joy, called the entire family to share the news and informed the neighbors as well. In no time, our house was flooded with guests. Some came to congratulate, while others came to ask how all this was possible. Some were happy, while others were consumed by the fire of envy, while I was still sitting surprised and troubled. I myself didn't understand how all this had happened so suddenly. And then, 2 days later, I got married. After the wedding, they took me and my mother to their bungalow, and our house was locked. The bungalow was truly a palace. There were big cars and servants. The room I was seated in was also very big and beautiful. My mother was given a place in the annex built at the back of the house. My mother was happy even with that because the annex of that bungalow was also much bigger than our small house. My mother was also given a separate maid. All my mother's wishes had come true while I was sitting in my room waiting for my husband. It was a night full of dreams. I was thinking that for the first time, I would be with a man. For the first time, no gaze directed at me would seem impure or dirty. I sat leaning against the bed, waiting. When an hour passed, and then, after a full hour, the room door opened. I shyly shrank into myself. But at that moment, my senses were shocked when my veil was lifted. The one who lifted my veil was not my husband, but some other middle-aged man. I nervously started to move back, but he held me tightly in his arms and said, "Indeed, you are truly a doll, just like your name. I have never seen such a beautiful girl before." His terrifying laugh was enough to make my heart stop. With choked breaths, I asked, "Who are you and where's my husband?" Hearing my words, he kept laughing and said, "Tonight, I am your husband. Who will be tomorrow, I don't know. In this bungalow, you will get a new husband every night, and the person you married is an impotent man who brought you as his wife so he could sell you and earn more money. He and his mother buy and sell girls. This time, you came into their hands for free. Now they are not going to leave you for the rest of your life." Hearing that man's words, the sky fell on my head. All my heart's apprehensions had proven correct. Now I understood why my marriage was done in such a hurry, why they had no objection to anything, and why they came to live in this small settlement. They had found a beautiful and young girl like me for free, and now they wanted to earn money through her for the rest of their lives. I tried to save myself from that man, but I had neither the courage nor the strength. In no time, he had me under his control, and the most horrific night of my life had begun. The next morning's sun brought nothing but darkness for me. My so-called husband strictly told me not to tell my mother anything, or they would kill her. On the other hand, my mother was very happy. Every wish of her life had come true. I tried to tell my mother in veiled terms, but my mother was not willing to listen to anything. For her son-in-law was like a diamond, and my destiny was very beautiful. The next night, someone else entered my room, and I became someone else's concubine. I didn't know how long all this would continue, but for me, it was all very terrifying, and thus a month passed. And then, after a month, my prayers were answered, and the police raided that bungalow. My husband and his mother were arrested, and I was set free. When my mother found out the whole truth, she became ashamed of me. She regretted why she didn't listen to me. But now my mother's regrets meant nothing to me. My mother and I came back to that small house. Everyone found out what had happened to me. Everyone was condemning us. Today, I am sitting on my mother's doorstep, and a year has passed since that incident. It seems that I will spend my entire life with my youth and beauty on my mother's doorstep. People look at me, they reach out their hands to me, but not to accept me, but to buy me for one night. For God's sake, hide your daughter's youth. Don't let them fall prey to dirty gazes. When it's in their destiny, they will get married, and their lives will also be blessed. But don't offer your daughters on a platter to such wolves who will ruin their lives.